I changed my what could go wrong assignment is due today. But also on to next Tuesday is the presentation. Like we're gonna be working on a bunch of those. Everyone's gonna be saying what they did. And then what could go wrong is now next week. Wait, oh, there's a question.
Is that better? No one's gonna go to sleep on me?
Yeah.
I might.
No promises.
Yeah.
I already took a nap today and it's only noon.
Yeah, well, today you're not gonna get a lot of sympathy from me. I'm up at 11, up at 2, up at 5 to redeliver ice.
My boyfriend's mom just had it done in like May.
Yeah.
And all she did was, she has a lot of Apple TV shows that she recommended.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
Apple, she's gotta get the other one done next year as well, so she's not looking forward to that.
All right, folks, happy Tuesday. I love this quote, so I'm gonna share it with you. If you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put foundations under them. So today we're gonna work on putting some foundations under our castles. Before we get there, this is really random, but well. All right. This just shows up here because one day I saw it before this class and I got in these slides and it sticks here. So I don't know where I saw this, but Mookie Wilson was a baseball player in the 80s, I think. And said this, it's just funny. There is no other rationale to this. It just makes me laugh. So I leave it in here. Okay. He said, when I'm in a slump, I comfort myself by saying, if I believe in dinosaurs, then somewhere they must be believing in me. And if they believe in me, then I can believe in me. Then I bust out. So that's your motivational speech for today. If you believe in dinosaurs, they believe in you. All right, my slides are all messed up. So on Thursday, we did this little experiment where half of you went for a walk, half of you stayed and meditated, and we measured pre-test, so before you did anything, we measured your mood, and then post-test, so after you did your activity. We measure both positive and negative mood. My meditation group, what do you think? Positive mood, up or down? Up. Negative mood, up or down?
Down.
Down, okay. Walking group, do you think the same or you think different? Same, even though it was hot? We should have done it today. I bet we get a different result. Group 1, positive mood was 2.3 out of 5 before we did anything. After you meditated, it was 2.19. It actually decreased about 5%.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the items, and I should have pulled them up here, it's not terribly surprising because one of those is vigorous, right? I forget the other two, but they're very active. They're not just positive, they're very active, and meditation kind of chills you out a little bit ideally. So not super surprising. In fact, this is normally the result we see with meditation. Group 2 went from 2.83 to 2.78, so also went down a little bit, barely 2%. Probably here because it was hot, and like, again, I think if we did this today, we might get a different result. Okay. But walking may not have been so effective because it was hot. Negative mood. Okay, so here's where we see the big difference. Group 1 meditation, like way dropped your negative emotions, almost 25%. It's a huge drop in meditation. After meditation, your negative emotions. Group 2, even though it was hot, your negative emotions dropped as well, about 16%. Okay. So the takeaway is, in this case, both meditation and walking decreases your negative moods, but it actually decreases your positive moods as well. It just makes you feel less, I suppose. We're a fairly small group. I can tell you in general, and if I aggregate this with other classes, we usually see, this is usually the case, and we usually see positive mood go up for the walking group. But I really think that's a function of the heat. It was really hot on Thursday. We also talked about designs. So design, how we implement our survey. We talked about 3 types. Cross-sectional, longitudinal, and experimental. Let's do a little eye clicker here. So cross-sectional is A, longitudinal is B, experimental is C. Which type of design? And we won't do eye clicker because apparently I can't click in the right places. Where did it go? No, go away. No, that's not what I want. I think I've never done this before. Okay, what type of design is this? A, cross-sectional, B, longitudinal, or C, experimental? What type of design do we use?
Wait, is A cross-sectional?
A is cross-sectional, yeah. A, B, C.
I just see the PowerPoint.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, you're not gonna actually see anything.
Oh.
Yeah. You're just gonna see what's on my screen. And I was doing this on the fly, so there's not like this preset slide for.
Wait, which is behind.
Even if you don't know, answer because it helps me know what you know and what you don't know.
Oh, okay, it's what the thing was. I was.
I'm gonna close in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We are conflicted. Okay, let's talk then. So cross-sectional design, surveyed a single point in time. Single point in time. Longitudinal, multiple points in time. Okay. Experimental it's a little complicated, but that's where we control for random shit. Is my not polite way to say that, but might help you remember it. Okay. So cross-sectional is a single point in time. Okay. And I measured you before you did your activity and after you did your activity. Is that cross-sectional? No. So we know it's not cross-sectional. Okay. I measured you before and after. Okay. So we know it has characteristics of longitudinal. Most common form of longitudinal is what we did, which is called pre and post. Okay, so pre before the activity, then I measure again after the activity. So we're torn between longitudinal and experimental. So are there other things other than walking or meditation? Is there random shit that could have influenced the result? Yeah, absolutely. We talked about the heat. Okay. So it's not experimental because we didn't control for that stuff. Okay? So this one is longitudinal.
Wait, so it's experimental if you like decide to add the other, like if you put everyone in a room and made it 110 degrees, that would make it experimental.
that would control for heat.
Yeah,
Yep, so that's getting closer, but you'd still have other things that could be a factor.
okay.
And so Grace, we actually, get into this weird in between. We often call things quasi-experimental,
Mhm.
which is like, well, it's not perfect, but it's closer.
Yeah.
But I don't introduce that one to you because it's the gray area. It's the gray
Okay.
area. Okay. So the other thing we talked about is how we know if one thing causes the other. So in our example, does meditation improve your mood or decrease your negative moods? Does walking decrease your negative moods? Okay. And we have 3 criteria for determining if we're able to say that one thing causes the other. Okay. The first one is, are things related or different? Okay. So in our example, I could see that your mood changed after your activity. Okay. So we know it did that. Okay. The next thing is time order. Okay. Do we know that your mood changed after the activity? Yes, we do. Okay. The third thing, that the technical term is non-spuriousness. Okay, you can call it control. And yes, I will accept on an exam, if you say random shit. Which for some reason I will still say to you, but will not spell on the board. Spuriousness, spur, like cowboy spurs, S-P-U-R. I-O-U-S. N-E-S-S. Spuriousness.
Okay, there's.
I was thinking the same thing. All right, and now we talked about in this case, on our lunch design, we were not able to control for random shit. Okay, we were not able to control for other factors. If I had to, yeah,
When you say control for random shit, do you mean like in an experiment, they are controlling for every single aspect of the experiment down to the room temperature?
yes.
Okay, well, thank you.
In a perfect world, right? And that's where I was telling Grace, we often get these things we call quasi-experimental, which is we do our best. We control for some things. We control for things we think might influence and we ignore other things. But yes, in a perfect world, that's exactly what that means. But there is a way to do it, and we'll talk about that, okay? So cross-sectional design. So if I just given you a survey and I asked if you meditated or if you went for walks and then asked about your mood, I could tell if people who walked or meditated what their mood was. So I could tell if things were related or different. Okay? But I wouldn't necessarily know if one thing happened after the other. The example I always like is if you ask people about depression and hiking, okay, and you find that people who go hiking are less depressed than people who do not, okay, it may be that going hiking decreases depression, which is true, we actually know that, okay, but it also could be that people who are not depressed are more likely to go hiking, which is also true, right? Because if you're depressed, you're going to be lying in bed, okay? So we don't necessarily know if one thing happened after another. Okay. Experimental design does all 3. Okay. Now, as Annika pointed out, particularly with people, it is really, really difficult to control for all the random things that could be influencing your result. Okay. But there is a way to do it. Okay. The way we do it is we take our group of people, okay, we randomly assign, and that's your key word, okay? Random assignment. Okay, so I have my group of people, we call it a sample, we'll get into that next week, okay? My group of people, okay, I randomly assign into 2 groups. what random assignment does if your sample is large enough, which is usually depends on a lot of factors, but a few hundred. Actually, it's not necessarily as big as you think. Okay. But if I take a sample and I randomly assign that in theory, and it actually works, again, if your sample is big enough, then all that random shit is equally distributed among groups. Okay, so they're the same on all those factors. Okay, except they have one difference, and that's the thing that we manipulate. Okay, in this case, we manipulate that this group goes for a walk and this group meditates. Then we measure, okay? And you can actually do one measurement, because again, in theory, their mood would have been the same because I randomly distributed at the beginning, but you can also do longitudinal and see what the difference was. So that's how with people we control. We randomly assign our sample into two groups. It is only when these three conditions are met that we can say with absolute confidence that one thing caused the other thing to happen. However, most of the evaluation and even research work we do lives in this cross-sectional world. Okay, it lives there, quite frankly, because it's just easier. And it's less time intensive, it's less resource intensive, it's easier to get data. Okay. So what I want you to come out of here just practically knowing when you are in your jobs and doing, and it's a really common intern task I find, like people do the survey for us, and use cross-sectional design, okay, draw some conclusions, just be aware that there's some limitations, okay? So be aware that if you find that people who go hiking are less depressed, maybe it's because people were not depressed and more likely to go hiking. So just think critically, okay? You're not definitively able to draw a conclusion, so you just have to use your brain and your logic. What questions do you have about that? There's some more practice at some point. I'm gonna hand out, this is just scratch paper. So I have no idea what's on the other side. You only need one. It should, yeah. You're all like curious, what's my scratch paper? It's a consent form for a research study. All right, we're gonna detour for a second, well, for a few minutes, and talk about your final project and the topic for your final project. So we're all gonna do a related topic. And this semester, what I want us to do is something related to coping with stress. So, this is a very popular model. It was actually developed by an ASU professor about how students cope with stress. And what this says, yours is not going to be this complicated, but just so you have an idea. Emotional intelligence, which includes your emotional regulation, so your ability to regulate your own emotions, okay? And what's called self-leadership, which is basically your ability to control your own emotions and behavior, predicts your mood, self-efficacy, which is confidence that you can do certain things. And then those things predict your ability to cope with stress. Okay, these arrows mean that this also predicts this, and this, there's all these different relationships going on, or people, we're complicated. Okay, this is kind of our inspiration. We're not going to do exactly this, but I want to look at you all. So you're going to be your own study group this semester. You're going to be your own sample. You're not going to collect data from someone else. So we're gonna look at what helps you cope with stress. So what I want you to do on that scratch paper I gave you, make 2 columns. Okay. One column, so on the left side, put things that cause me stress. And on the other column, put things that help me cope with stress. Let's take a minute to do that individually. You don't need to put your names on this, but I am gonna look at them, so try to write as neatly as you can.
Cause me stressful. Things that help calm stress.
I appreciate it. Things that affect stress and things.
Things that cause you stress, things that help you cope with stress. So. Exams cause me stress. Hanging out with friends helps me cope. Another 30 seconds on that. Okay, now what I want you to do is make a friend or a couple of friends. And I just want you to talk about it with each other for a minute. If there's something on there you don't want to share, don't feel like you have to. If you're like, crawling up with my teddy bear helps me and I don't want to tell people that, then by all means, don't feel like you need to. But as you have these conversations, I want you to see what are kind of some commonalities. And maybe put some stars beside those or underline them or something. So I can just see what's kind of popping in common. So take a minute or two and talk to each other. Go.
Hey. So, yeah. Yeah, that helped me.
Sure.
Not knowing. I also tries to like, maybe someone asks me something. I like lose myself a little bit. I like to go. I'm fine, but I don't like it. Deadlines, I just like. Nice.
Yeah.
So I got mine linked to one, so research, especially it's like large enforcement. Deadlines, it just. Sorry?
Like deadlines, like really my philosophy, like I'm not gonna wait on it, I work on it. It's part of time history. Work out. There's anime and
Okay, you're like, living in a house.
really like
What
it's the huge part, needs to be computer.
I just want to go. When did you have someone have one? But like that's like.
So kind of not. No, so you're sorry, I said it.
30 more seconds.
Sorry, I could think of these things. Like the way they're like weird. So I think they was is it a bit? Yeah. Oh, I will say to you that I might. For a wedding,
You can, oh, we just got quiet. You guys, there's something about this class. You always have this like natural, like, why do I did this last time? Why do I do this? And once I say, oh, there's something about you, you just naturally get quiet. And like one of my favorite things to do is if you can hear me now, clap twice and you take that moment away from me. It's okay. All right, I'm gonna take these up, but I'm just curious to get an idea. What are, just throw them out. What are some things that cause us stress and what are some things that,
Transitions,
transitions can,
like transitioning from one activity to the other.
Family.
hold on, I'm trying to wrap my hand around transitions and how we might measure it. Wait, think about that. All right, family,
School,
school, okay, can you be more specific with school?
homework, exams.
Busy work, everything.
Thank you.
Grace?
Say commuting to school.
Commuting, that's like really good. Oh, yeah, that one. That one.
Fear of the unknown. Yeah.
Fear of the unknown.
Public speaking.
Public speaking,
Finances.
Oh, yeah,
The
that's
future.
money, the future,
Myself.
work, yourself? Work. Right. What are some things that help you cope with stress? Crying. Ah, that's a great answer. What else? Sleep.
Having an agenda.
Routine.
Say time management, routine, agenda, that all fits into time management.
Support systems.
Support systems.
Alone time.
Isolation.
Alone time, was it?
Going outside.
Outside. Alone time.
Reading.
Reading, Annika.
Leisure activities. Like
Leisure.
hobbies.
Great, all right. I'm gonna look at these. So here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna take a combination of like what I see most frequently, what I think is interesting, and also just what's measurable. Like some of this is gonna be tricky to measure. So it might be really interesting, just a little hard to do. And then I'm gonna put together the survey for us. And that's gonna become our class project. So in other years, we like go out and we get data. So as I said, we're gonna be our own data. So probably once a week, I'm gonna have you fill out a survey related to these things. So we're gonna do a little longitudinal design. Okay. At the end of the semester, so for your final project, there's probably two pieces to it. One, you're gonna make some general conclusions about stress coping, but you're also gonna have your individual data and you'll be able to analyze that. Okay, to see if what you think helps you manage stress actually does. So we have both that pieces. So that's how that's going to work. Before you hand those over, take one last look, and if there's something like, no, I really, really want this on here, like extra star it or something, I still can't promise, but I'm still trying to figure out how to measure transitions, but maybe. It's an interesting one, which is why I'm still thinking about it.
I used to be a registered behavioral health technician for applied behavioral analysis. Is for kids with autism. And we measured transitions, in a lot of different factions, and especially like my supervisors, the BCBAs, they had different evaluations, kind of like the ones that we.
So like life transitions, is that what we're talking about?
No, like more so like transition, like something that we measure,
I'm
is,
gonna pass this over my page and I talking.
transition from like room to room or from.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, all right, all right, so that's
Yeah.
a little different than what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Mhm.
It's not quite as complicated as what I was trying to make it. I was like, life transitions, but that's like marriage, divorce, and like, that's
That much.
for a semester, hopefully we don't have a lot of that going on.
I don't really. They're good. That was a really hard.
Oh, really?
All right, so before we move on to our topic for the day, just a quick comment about app 2. First of all, apologies for just totally flipping on that. App 2 is writing what we call the methods section of your final project. The methods section describes how you collect data. Last semester, because we used the same topic we had before, I knew exactly what we were doing, so we did it early in the semester. And all of a sudden I was like, we don't really know what we're doing yet. So you can't do that assignment yet. It's a short assignment and it's kind of like a plug and play. Like I give you a template and you kind of fill in the blanks. So I promise that's a pretty easy assignment. And so I really just looked for a home for it where you didn't have a lot of other stuff to do. So I just kind of stuck it someplace, which ended up being a couple weeks down the road. But that'll get there. And I'll walk you through it when we get there. But apologies for having that on there, being like, you know what, this doesn't make sense. All right, so for the rest of today and Thursday, we're gonna work on questionnaires, writing questionnaire items some more. But more specifically, we're gonna work on writing questionnaire items that measure goals and objectives, which is our most common form of evaluation. Let me actually look at slides. So to recap, so this is what evaluation is. This will show up on your exam, I promise you. Okay, so we determine criteria, or what does success look like? Okay, what does success look like? We collect evidence. This is our data. Okay, for us, that's going to be in the form of a questionnaire or a survey. Okay, we analyze it, and then from that, we make judgments. We make decisions about what to do with our organizations and communities. So that is evaluation in a nutshell. Okay. What we have covered is variables and measurement levels, okay, and writing questionnaires. So we started in the middle. We started with how we do evidence, how we collect evidence. Today we're gonna go backwards, okay, and talk about the criteria, and specifically the most common one, which is goals and objectives. So before we get there, just a quick summary of the different models of evaluation. First model of evaluation is what we call intuitive judgment. Intuitive, or your intuition. Intuitive judgment means you trust your gut. This is by far the most common form of evaluation, although we often don't think about it. Every day when I walk into this classroom, I have an intuitive judgment about how a class went. Like some days like, class was great today. Some days like, they were really confused. Some days I'm like, I was really boring today. Like, you know, we all do it constantly. It's okay. It's useful. But obviously, hopefully obviously, we can make mistakes with using our intuition, right? Because this is strongly influenced by a host of other factors, our mood. I can tell you when I come into this classroom stressed out, because for whatever reasons going on in my life, like I am much more likely to think class didn't go well than if I come in here in a good mood. Because I'm influenced by my own starters. So we do this all the time. It's okay that we do it, but just be aware of the limitations. Second model is called expert judgment, which is just bringing in an expert to come in and tell you what they think. So, all your faculty who are supposedly experts in teaching, we're not all experts in teaching, but hopefully we are. We go in and evaluate each other. Like, so you may sometimes be in a classroom where another faculty member comes in one day and like watches and evaluates that instructor. Any of you are in one of Aaron's class, I'll be in a couple weeks. So it's an expert judgment, which is in some ways a form of intuitive judgment, but hopefully a little more rigorous and a little less biased. Third type is called goal-free. Sometimes called black box, although goal-free makes a little more sense. Goal-free is really when I skip that first part of the evaluation model, when I do not have criteria. I don't know what success looks like. I do not know what success looks like. I don't know what the goals are. I don't know what the criteria are. Any ideas when you might use this? What about if I'm starting a new program? Let's say we're starting a new underwater basket weaving class. Is success getting 20 people or success getting 100 people? I don't know yet. We've never done it before. Let's see. Okay, so we're establishing a baseline. Or sometimes we'll use this, so maybe we do have goals, but there may be other things that people get out of it that we weren't anticipating. Let's say in my underwater basket weaving program, I had a goal for people to develop self-confidence, and so I measured that. That's great. But by using this model of evaluation, I also found out that people were developing a sense of community. So it's not necessarily measuring against a goal, it's just seeing what's happened. It's collecting evidence. It's really evidence and judgment without the criteria. Okay, evidence and judgment without the criteria. This one, I'm only going to mention this briefly because it's a term I just want you to kind of file in the back of your brain somewhere. I don't have any nonprofit majors in here, do we? Actually, we do. That's right. Okay. So logic models, grant applications will frequently ask for a logic model. Okay. So logic models are a visual representation of how you get from inputs or resources, okay, what you do with those activities, and then the traditional logic model uses these really confusing terms: outputs, outcomes, and impact. I've seen some newer ones that say short-term goals, medium-term, long-term, which makes a lot more sense. Okay, but I just mentioned this to you, so if you ever see that again, you're like, I've heard that somewhere before. We're not really going to focus on it, but it is a useful. The one we're going to spend most of our time on is the goal attainment model. In the goal attainment model, we're using all three components of evaluation. We are setting criteria. What does success look like? We are collecting evidence, and we are making judgment. So in goal 3, we're just doing evidence and judgment. In goal attainment, we're in criteria, evidence, and judgment. Yeah.
Do you think you'd be able to write that on the board, like just like a graph or something?
Yeah. Can you see the board? And then lights back on?
We can see it.
Hmm?
We can see it.
You can see it. Okay. That's it there. All right, I'm gonna show you the next slide too. Which I think is the one I want. Yeah. So the two really. Three. actually. I think it's a really good suggestion. I've actually never thought of it like this visual format. It's a good idea. So, if we think about our components of evaluation. Like criteria, evidence, and judgment. Intuitive, trust your gut. As judgment. That's really it. Like, I think class went okay today. We don't really have any evidence. I feel like it went okay. Okay. In goal free, we collect evidence and we make a judgment. Okay, but we don't have criteria. In goal attainment, we do all three. We set our criteria, we define what success looks like. We collect evidence to see if we met it. And then we make a judgment. Okay. Does that help? Great, thank you. Thank you. So now we're going to transition into setting these criteria. And we're going to talk about something that you've almost certainly talked about before. And some of you will be like, I know I've done this a million times. And I'm going to tell you, I know, and you've probably done it wrong 999,000 of them. Okay. And that is SMART goals, SMART objectives. Yeah, I hear the rumbling. Okay. And I'll also tell you, and I don't tell these to scare you, but more to be supportive. I've taught this skill with a lot of folks, including like high-level executives, and some of them struggle with it. Okay. And good news about learning this skill, I think it's actually true for a couple things in this class. Like, once you get it, it's gonna be super easy. It's gonna be like, it becomes really obvious. Okay. So work with me today and Thursday, get over that hump. Okay. Once you get it, it becomes easy, because what we want to do is write our objectives in a way that we can measure them on our survey or questionnaire. Okay. First, general distinction, goals and objectives. Goals are broad. Goals are broad and general. Goals are not measurable. Goals are broad and general. Goals are not measurable. Sorry, these slides are probably, I should probably update them. It's the good and bad about teaching this class a lot. I really don't need the slides, and sometimes I forget what's on them. Goals are broad and general. They are not measurable. Objectives are a subset of goals. Goals are specific, our objectives are specific and measurable. Good old school. Goals, broad, general, not measurable. Objectives, specific, nested under goals. And are what we measure. So the term SMART goals is really a misnomer. It's SMART objectives. You've heard this before. Okay. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. Our focus is going to be the S and the M and the T, but saying we're going to write SMART objectives doesn't work as well as SMART objectives. Oh, wow, no one laughed. So we measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. I'm going to go through this quickly in terms of definitionally, because I think the best way to do it is to learn it is to do it. Okay. So then we're gonna work on examples. So it's a specific piece. Okay. Objective should be obvious what success looks like. In your objective, it should almost always have a number, sometimes stated as a frequency or percentage. Sometimes the number is implied, which is why I say almost always. So it's specific, you should see a number in there. Sorry, no number schedule. Okay. It should be measurable. And then how we're gonna learn in this class is when you write your objective, it should be clear how you measure it. So in this class, we're gonna focus on measuring things using surveys or questionnaires. So you're gonna get used to the language of will report. By the end of the semester, at least 80% of students will report that they had fun in class. By the end of the year, at least 95% of students will report that they found a parking space. Okay. Will report tells me I'm going to use a survey. Okay. I could say will be observed, will register. There's other things I could do here. Okay. For our purposes, we're going to focus on a survey. So just get used to saying will report, will report, will report. And think about how we use a survey to measure things. Okay. And then time bound. By when is it going to happen? Okay. By the end of the year, by the end of the semester, by the end of the class. When am I stopping to measure success? By when will this be completed? Oh, I need a desk up here. My favorite place to teach is like sitting down on a desk. I just feel like I'm pacing up here. Steal this one next time. Yeah. Okay. By when will this be completed? All right, back to the desk. All right, so I'm just going to teach you a format. And this is not a case where you need to be creative. Follow the format, plug and play, learn it, plug and play. Like I said, once you get it, it becomes easy. Format looks like this. Okay. By, here's your time bound. By when? When are we measuring it? When are we measuring it? When are we measuring it? You're always welcome to take pictures. Do remember I post the slides on Canvas after class, which doesn't help with what I write on the board. But, and feel free to take pictures. But just a reminder, okay. By when? By the end of the semester, by the end of the year, by 2025, by 2032. Okay. When am I going to stop to measure? What's my specific piece? Here's my number. By the end of the year, at least 50% of students, 50% of students, okay. How am I going to measure it? For us, it's going to be a survey. Will report. And then what's the thing I want to know? Fun. Will report that they had fun. By the end of the year, time bound, at least 50% of students, specific, will report that they had fun. It's measurable in a survey. I've got all three parts. Hopefully that's also realistic and attainable. Let's practice. Let's practice together. If my goal is to understand evaluation terms, okay? This is not measurable yet. Okay? The goal is broad. I don't know what success looks like. Okay. So using a survey, how would I know if you understand evaluation terms? How would I know if I'm giving you a survey? Don't overthink this. I'm gonna give you a survey, and I wanna know if you understand evaluation terms. What should I ask you on that survey?
About the terms.
Yep, and let's make it even more simple.
Do you understand it?
Do you understand the terms? Yeah, it's that simple. It's that simple, okay? Okay, I'm just gonna ask if you understand the survey. Okay, understand the terms, sorry. So let's put a timepiece on it, let's see. By the end of the semester. Time bound. Okay, let's put a number on it. How many of you should understand terms for me to feel like success?
80%.
80%, okay? At least 80% of students. This is a super picky detail, but I always recommend writing at least. Because technically, it said 80% and 85% of you did, that's failure. That's super picky, but like there are times when that's relevant, okay? So at least 80% of students, okay? We're gonna use a survey, so we say will report. Okay. Savannah said, will report, what are they reporting? That they understand eval terms. Okay. By the end of the semester, it's time bound. At least 80% of students, it's specific, will report that they understand evaluation terms. I'm measuring on a survey. I'm gonna give you a survey, I'm gonna ask you if you understand evaluation terms. 85% of you said yes, success, boom. Okay. Sometimes you wanna know where this number comes from. Frequently comes from a goal-free process that we did earlier to help establish our goals. Or there's usually some logic here. For our purposes, we're frequently just like throwing a number up here. Now, if you said 100%, that's probably not realistic, but we're usually doing it. So far, so good? Okay. I'm gonna leave the top part. Okay. Abby. Yeah, you see her, tell me. Abby says, what were you starting to say? And I kind of cut you off. Do you remember? I said there's a simpler way, so now we're gonna go to your way.
Oh, just ask about the terms.
Okay, yep, so ask about the terms, so we do that on an exam, right? Okay. So let's just leave the top part. By the end of the semester, at least 80% of students, right? Will score 90, actually, let's just will receive an A or higher on 402 exams. Okay. But in the semester, it's time bound, at least 80% of students, it's specific. How am I gonna measure it? We'll receive an A or higher on 402 exams. Now, this is not a survey, which I'm telling you, that's most of what we're gonna do, but I just want to give you another example here, Abby.
Should you say we'll receive at least an A or higher? Or does it not matter there?
Well, A or higher implies
Oh,
at
okay,
least.
got it.
Yeah. Good point. Some parts are good. Okay. Let's take it next level. Strategic planning. This is really a strategic planning skill we're gonna get at, but there's an evaluation component, strategic planning. When we do strategic planning, okay, so when we are coming up with a plan for our organizations and our programs to succeed, okay, we are looking at both the outcome. Okay, what's our goals? What's our impact? Okay, whatever term you want to use there. Why do we exist? Okay. So, I'm gonna say tourism because that's plurality of you. What do we want people to get out of tourism about visiting another place? What do we want a person to get out of that? What do you get out of that when you visit another place?
Cultural experience.
Okay, cultural experience. Tell me more, what's the value of cultural experience?
You get to learn more about like different people and how they in different countries they live their
Okay.
day-to-day
And
life.
why does that matter? And why does that matter? It sounds like I'm being an asshole, but there's a strategic planning exercise called the 5 whys, and it's just keep digging. So I'm like, why does that matter? Why does that matter? Why does that matter?
Because I think it's important to understand the depths of the different diversity of individuals.
Why should I care about diversity of individuals?
Because
Grace is gonna help you out.
okay.
Grace is gonna help out Grace. I didn't even say it.
Just because the more that you understand others, the more that you can use their experiences on yourself, and we tend to make our decisions based on other experiences. So
Okay.
it's only human to
Okay,
branch
I
out.
buy that. That's good. I don't know how to measure that, which is why I'm not acting on it, because that gets tricky, but yeah. Why is valuing other people's experience important to the world?
Because we know what people are,
Makes you an empathetic person,
we know what people like.
and therefore,
Tailor things to what those people like.
Grace,
I think there could be like a capitalistic approach, which is like it drives certain economies and keeps the world running in ways that have to be run.
yeah, so, and that's kind of where I was going. I was gonna take a less economic approach, but yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be like really kind of great, I'm gonna be a little rainbows and unicorns here. World peace. Which, you laugh, it's kind of silly, but really, this is not what tourism does, ideally. When we understand other people, we're empathetic. We're less likely to dislike another country or people group when we understand them, when we tell them, right? So that's our long-term picture. Now, I will tell you, figuring out where that like 5 whys exercise stops is not a perfect science, right? So sometimes you just kind of like, nope, that's as far back. Like this is about empathy, and empathy is valuable because it's valuable stuff. Okay, so don't feel like this is not something I'm gonna ding you on. I might make a comment, but I'm never gonna be like, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? But it's a useful exercise for you to get. Okay, so this is our ultimate outcome, world peace. Okay, how do we get there? With tourism, how do we get there?
Experiences.
Okay, cultural experiences. Travel. Interactions. With the other in quotes, that's kind of a technical term. Okay. What we want is world peace, at least in tourism. How we're gonna do that, we're gonna get cultural experiences. We're gonna get travel experiences, we're gonna give people chances to interact with others. These are our outcomes. These are our strategies. Sometimes I'll call them processes, but strategies is better. Strategies, outcomes. Now, you can imagine that my goal is we will have world peace. Okay? You can imagine I can write objectives that measures that. Okay? I'm gonna be a bit silly to make a point and make it easier. So by the end of, I won't be quite so political. By end of 2024, time bound, at least, sorry, this is squeaking and it's driving me crazy. At least 75% of people will report. Okay. So what are they reporting about world peace? That there is world peace. Now, this may seem a little silly, but oftentimes I find that people overthink this. So if it's about world peace, ask people about world peace. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Okay, so by the end of 2024, at least 75% of people will report that there is world peace. Okay. So let's say we do our evaluation, and we find that only 60% of people did. Okay, oh crap, we failed. Okay. So the question becomes why? And then we go back to our strategies. Okay, we go back to our strategies. So you can imagine we can write objectives for each of these. So cultural experience, by the end of 2024, at least 50% of people will report. Okay, so we're going to measure on a survey that they had a cultural experience. And in 2024, at least 50% of people will report that they had a cultural experience. Why this matters in strategic planning, we can do this for travel, we can do this for interactions with others, right? We can write objectives that specify that, okay? So when you're the CEO of your organization and your organization is devoted to world peace, and you find out that not 75%, less than 75% of people are reporting world peace, you go back to your strategies. Okay, you can start with this one. Okay, did you meet this strategy? Did 50% of people report they had a cultural experience? If they did, but you didn't get world peace, then you know this didn't work. It just didn't work. If they didn't, well, you need to improve this. It might work if you'd done it. Okay. So what you're trying to find out is, did your strategy create the outcome you desired? Did your strategy create the outcome you desired? Strategic goals and objectives, outcome goals and objectives. We're going to spend some more time on this, folks, because you can do it. Okay. And I'm going to tell you, 95% of you, 90 to 95% of you are going to be masters of this before this class is over. Okay. This is a CEO level skill. Okay. Being able to identify what your strategies and strategic objectives are and how they relate to your outcomes and outcome objectives. It's a CEO level skill. Okay. And you're going to be able to do it, I promise you. I promise you. Okay. I'm gonna take a step back. I don't know what direction this step is going. And show you something. So I'm on Canvas. Let me go to the student view. So we are a couple weeks away still from exam, and as I've told you, you're gonna have every resource you need. Okay. But if you're getting antsy, if you go to modules and daily class plans, and then scroll down to midterm review and exam, you'll see lots of tools here. Number one being this review guide. So on here is an exam sample. I air quote that because the questions on here will be the exact questions on your exam. The only difference is you're gonna get a different scenario to work with. Okay, so in this one, I give you a scenario, tell me the predictor outcome, how would you collect data using these different designs? All the things we were doing, right? Write questionnaire items. Now, why I bring this up right now is because here's how it relates to the skill we're learning today. Okay, let me back up. And this is actually what I should have shown you. Well, your assignment, your app 3 is the same. I skipped to the exam because that causes you more anxiety, but it's gonna look exactly like this. So you're gonna practice on app 3. Okay, we're offering grants to students. The goal of your program is to reduce student test anxiety. Okay, this is your outcome. Okay, what are you doing? Write an objective related to reducing student test anxiety. In this semester, at least 90% of students will report that they did not experience test anxiety. It's that simple. Okay. Write the questionnaire, so we haven't got to, but we'll get to it on Thursday. Write the questionnaire item that measures that. Okay. Here's the simplest way to do that. Do you experience test anxiety? Yes, no, nominal variable. Okay, we can do it in an interval. We'll talk about how. Next piece, what are your strategies to do that? Okay. Provide a review session. Okay. Right objective. By the end of the semester, at least 90% of students will report that they went to at least one review session. Questionnaire item. Did you go to at least one? How many review sessions did you go to? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Interval data. Measure. That's how that's going to translate. Okay. App 3, which might have made more sense to show you, but I've been meaning to like preview the exam because some of you started asking. Okay. That's what it's going to look like. So this is here. If you want to start looking at the exam, I can't quite promise. My guess is there's not going to be any changes to this, but I do reserve the right up to a week in advance. If there are changes, they tend to be like small wording changes. And sometimes that's just like, I described things differently in this class than in another class, because this class, I decided that you all remembered it when I said random shit, so I changed it, whatever. But it should be basically the same. That's coming up. There's lots of other materials on here. As I said, you'll have every tool to succeed, but we'll get there. We have plenty of time. Okay. So here's what's coming up. So on Thursday, we're going to spend some more time on this skill. I'll talk a little bit on Thursday, but it's going to be much more practice. Yes.
The career fair is on Thursdays.
Career fair is 11 to 1. Yeah.
So if we're like.
Yeah. Career fair is important. Go. I mean, I would love if you're here by 12, but if you're having a great conversation or something, stay. Watch the video later. That's important. Thank you for that reminder, Tom. It's gonna keep saying it. So that's what we're gonna do on Thursday. Next Tuesday, we're gonna do sampling. This is what I refer to as the M&M's lecture. So tell me if you're allergic to M&M's before we get there. So that's a super easy skill. Then we'll review. Then we'll do the exam. Okay.
And the exam's in person.
The exam is in person, on paper, old school. But no one's here after us, so.
Yeah.
And again, you're gonna know, like, no surprises. That's my exam lecture. There'll be no surprises. So you're gonna walk in here, you're gonna know what the questions are. You're not gonna know what the example is. Okay. All right, folks, that's a lot of brain work today. So nice job. You're packing up, so let me ask you, but what questions do you have? Anything?
How's your wife doing?
What's that?
How's your wife doing?
Thank you for asking. Not great. She had some weird issue with anesthesia. We ended up in the ER on Friday and she was throwing up all last night. Her knee is actually doing pretty good. There's some weird reaction to the anesthesia that it sounds like they screwed something up.
Yeah,
But, yeah,
I'm not gonna be a
thank you.
professor.
All right, have a wonderful day. Enjoy the sub 100-degree temperature for the first time in a long, long time. And I'll see you on Thursday.
So we're gonna speak right now. Of what? Tell us like it's going home right now, you know. This is my first time home since 8 AM. That's like 5 hours. That was 5 hours ago. Yeah, that was me like 9 hours later. So. Oh, yeah. Tuesday. Okay. Yeah, it's better than my classes.
Yep.
Thursday is tuition one. We didn't do any of this later on. I know that it's still like a group project and I just did it individually.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right, it's individual, so, you're gonna use that skill set later on, you're gonna use,
Not the scenario.
you're gonna use part of this for app 2,
Okay,
but not for your group project.
cool, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Because it was kind of I did it more equine therapy based, and I don't know if I could actually establish that like in person.
Yeah,
But.
and I'll tell you, I used to have people do that, and like everybody would do a project, and we build from that, and part of the reason they don't do that anymore is because people have really cool ideas, and I'd be like, yeah, but we can't actually do that this semester.
Yeah.
So instead of me like crushing your dream later, I'm just like, now we're all gonna do the same topic.
Yeah, but I think I got all of the concepts right, so I think I'm
Okay,
pretty good.
I'll get this graded
Yeah, This came
soonish.
really easily.
Yeah, yeah, like it really is one of those skills that some people are like, duh, and some people are just like,
Yeah, that's how I feel about this, but I've also been in the nonprofit sector.
Yeah.
I've done surveys for, you know,
Yeah.
therapy and all of that. So
Yeah.
I get it.
it's-
Thank
when you
you.
get it, you get it, so.
I get it. Well, thank you.